Mōrena tātou. Well, I've just been invited to a speaking gig for Fulton Hogan, one of their workers' breakfasts here at the Mount. So yeah, I just thought I'd share the journey on how I prepare for something like this. I think a couple of key things for me is one, just be yourself. You know, kōrero te mea nui ki au. That's the most important thing to me, is just be yourself. Just kia pono, be pono. You know, don't try and be anything else. Don't talk kaka. You know, I've heard some speakers, man, and, you know, they try and make out there's something else that they're not, and it's like, nah, it's just, yeah, just, so kōrero te mea nui, number one, be yourself. Two, I think, because I'm from Tauranga Moana as well, I understand the context here, and so so it's important to be, I guess, relevant and relatable. It's good to weave that kind of āhua into your kōrero wherever you go, just to help create some connection points with your audience too, and connection points that are genuine. You know, they're genuine, authentic, and all that, and it just helps whakangāwari te āhua ki roto I te rūma. And because this is a mental health kaupapa too, you know, for me, I think the most important thing is just sharing my story. You know, I'm not going there to try and pretend to be Mr., you know, super mental health guy or anything. Nah, Kyle. I'm just going there to share my story, some of my experiences of going through depression and anxiety, and what were some practical keys, you know, that helped me get through those things and those moments, and practical keys that'll practically help them in their own life, you know, yeah. And I guess there's another side to it too when it comes to the mental health kaupapa, is that knowing that it's okay to talk about this stuff too, you know, as a tāne, as a Māori tāne, as a man. I think it's important to increase the visibility of Māori tāne talking about this sort of stuff too, in these kinds of settings, you know, and it just helps alleviate, it makes it a wee bit easier too, I reckon. So yeah, koira tāku, so that's me for today, this morning anyway. Yeah, just thought I'd bring you fellas along for the journey. About to head in.
For the putting people first and living our values when it matters most.
Kia ora, thank you. Kia ora tātou. Ko maua pūtaua ki ngā maunga, tā ki timu mā tātua ngā waka, ngai te rangi, Ngāti Rangi Nui, Ngāti Awa o ku iwi, ko te patuai, Ngāti Tawaiti o ku hapū, he kararo ahau o ngā kararo inu tai, o te haupapa ko atu o te mautere o Mōtiti. Ka peka atu ki te motu tere o tōku whaia, ko matakana whakaruru hau o te awa nui tērā, ko kere a mahoi te tōku ingoa, ara Mr. G, nō reira tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou. Kia ora everybody, my name is Graham Hoiti, also known as Mr. G. I'm from Tauranga Moana. I'm actually from the two islands here in Tauranga. One being Mōtiti Island, that's my parents live there. My father's from there, and my marae is there as well. But my mother is also from Matakana Island too, and so I get the best of both worlds. Got a direct access, you know, I'm very fortunate and blessed to say that I connect directly to Mōtiti Island and Matakana Island too. I was brought up in Kōrero, the famous town of Kōrero, and K-Town. It's for the first 15 years of my life. And so I come here, to hopefully encourage and inspire you, but I'm just going to be myself. I'm not going to try and be Mr. Tony Robbins guy or anything like that. I think the most important thing is just for me to come I rungi te ngā kaupono, just to be myself, to share my story, and also weave a bit of a mental health kaupapa into it too, because you know, it's as you'll find out later on, that's actually a big part of my journey too. But I just wanted to play a video first, just to kind of provide a bit of context to what I do.
Hello, my name is Graham Hoiti, also known as Mr. G, and I'm a multidisciplinary or multidisciplinary artist, anything in that.
Yeah, so I'm a full-time artist, been a full-time artist for the last 25 years. I've done a range of things here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, but also around the world. Done stuff for Star Wars, done quite a few collabs with Star Wars. Also, you would have seen I'd carved a helmet for Temuera Morrison, who actually, it was a Boba Fett helmet, who actually played Boba Fett for Star Wars, so it was a huge honour. Done stuff for the Mandalorian, FIFA World Cup games. I'm heading back over to the US next year, Minneapolis and Chanhassen, to paint another mural of Prince, which was his hometown. And so art has basically taken me all around the world, but I will say that it's been because of my dedication to honing and perfecting my craft. That's kind of been, I guess, the main reason that is, I'm really big on dedication to your craft, whatever it is. It's funny because I met one of my friends from when I used to work at Design Mobile when I first got married about 20 years ago. Hey, very sorry I can't see you, but yeah. And so when I first got married 20 years ago, that was kind of when it all started for me, because I was working, I was stacking containers, 40-foot containers there. Just got married, had, young fella, no idea what I wanted to do and stuff, and I was just mahi ate mahi, just doing the work to pay the bills. And but it was in that year, I remember I actually listened to a guy, who was a preacher guy. He came over from America, real mean singer, black guy and all that, gospel preacher. And he actually talked about what has God put in your hand. And I was like, oh. And for me, I wasn't really good at anything else besides a bit of volleyball, but I could draw. I could draw and paint. And listening to that message actually encouraged me to kind of believe in myself, say, hey, maybe I could make a living out of this thing. And so from there, it started from there. I started during my lunch times at a Design Mobile. I put a laptop on hire purchase, and during lunchtime I'd just sit there drawing, had my sketchbook, and I'd start creating t-shirt designs and all that. And I'd done a streetwear brand called Reps back in the day. Some of you may remember that. I ended up getting it in 25 stores throughout the country, but that was kind of one of the main catalysts for me in terms of my art journey. But I understand that most of you here may not be artists, so and a big thing for me right now was, for me, I'm more than just an artist too. My wife would say that, and all of us here, we're more than what we do. A lot of the time, sometimes we try and define ourselves by what we do, but we're a lot more than just our profession or our career or skill set and stuff. So this is me and my darling, my wife. Been married for 25 years, and so our boy, Teddy boy, little hummy, American Bulldog, and got more TTL in the background. We live in Papamoa, and so part of our journey is, so my wife, she actually has struggled with real bad endometriosis, and so she's had like 9 operations, and she is not able to have children. And so that's been a big part of our journey. And we're quite open about this too, because we've actually helped a lot of other couples out there too who struggle in this area too, because it can be quite a lonely struggle. And so we've just taken on a foster boy too. And it's, he's full on. Woo, out the gate. Yeah. Yeah, but he's full of energy, but hey, the thing is, he's had a really sad upbringing too, and so it's an opportunity for us to just pour out some aroha to this young boy. He's keen as into his sports and all that, but I share this just to kind of, I just think just to connect more, because there's a saying, we can impress people with our abilities, but we actually connect with people through our vulnerabilities, and so just here to keep it real, whānau. Just started a YouTube channel, and so I'm not doing this to try and plug the channel. I'm actually just doing it just so you guys get a bit more context, but behind the art and stuff, because I think most people just think, oh, that's all I do is just sit at home and just paint pictures in my garage or something. But Carl, you know, these are probably the 6 main areas that I'm passionate about when it comes to my life. And those that actually know me know this about me too. And so I've actually been encouraged by a lot of my mates and stuff to start sharing more about this sort of stuff, because it connects more with people who aren't into art too. And so, yep, fishing and diving, you'll see the moana up there. There's a little feed of kingfish I got, so I went out for spearfish out Tuhua, out Mirror Island. And actually that spear gun, I made that spear gun myself out of black Māori. So I love making things too. I'm just good old titu. I crafted it myself. But you know, one thing to make your own spear gun, might be all flash and all that, oh, look beautiful. He said, oh, but does it catch anything, bro? You know? And so I went out with my mates last summer, and I was like, nah, that's my goal, brothers. I'm gonna give me a kingi with this. Yeah, and hello, sure enough, I ended up getting one, and ka pai. So toy or art, that's another huge part of my journey as well. Te reo Māori is another huge part of my journey too. So I've been studying, went back to university last year to Toi Paitahi, but I've been going to classes and all that for the last 5 years. So there's been a huge healing journey for me too, reclaiming my native tongue. And yeah, so that's been an awesome journey as well. Whakapapa and whakapono. So I love talking about the whole thing. So in 1997, I had like let's just say I had like a very real encounter with Jesus Christ. Now, I'm not here to preach and all that sort of stuff, but for me, I've delved deep into the whole topic of colonization as well, all these other types of things regarding some aspects of Christianity and Te Ao Māori and culture and all that, and indigenous cultures around the world. And so I'd love to delve into all that sort of stuff too, and have wānanga. So, and that's just me again. Travel, my wife and I, we went to Switzerland. So she has, that's part of her heritage. So we went there to, so she actually been attending Te Reo Māori courses as well, my wife, and some of the main aspects that you learn in Te Reo Māori is about Te Ao Māori is what's your maunga or your mountain, your awa that you connect to and all that. And she was like, oh, well, I don't have one here in Aotearoa. And so we went over to Switzerland. And so she is from a small village over there called Mortatau. And when we got there, so her great-great-great-grandmother had a house there. And so we went to that house, which is still standing, and just tracing her footprints back to her heritage and all that. And so we went to her maunga, and they were huge over there, beautiful. And her awa as well, and just some of her, I guess, we actually ended up meeting one of her cousins there too, and that was an amazing kind of a bit of a divine encounter, that one. So that was awesome too. But again, it was really just about this whole topic of identity, knowing who you are regardless of where you're from. So travel, been to Rome, all that sort of stuff. I love history too, but also traveling here in Aotearoa too. I love history, our own history, and it's just kia whakawhānui ake tō tirohanga, just to broaden your horizons and appreciate all the many cultures we have in this world, you know. And so the other one is kōrero pono, which is basically just having honest conversations. I get different people in, kind of like a bit of a podcast, different ones from different walks of life. My wife and I love to talk about this whole topic of how do we navigate, you know, I guess kotahitanga, or things regarding, you know, Māori and Pākehā. How do we demonstrate or in terms of working together, you know, authentically, and you know, obviously my wife's Pākehā too, and so we love to talk about all that sort of stuff, how we can do relationships better with all that sort of stuff too. So, and I'm only sharing this just to provide a bit more context. So, so my story in terms of weaving a bit of a mental health aspect to it. So I was brought up, you know, real go-getter, risk taker, quite strong-willed and all that sort of stuff. But I'd say maybe 5 years after we got married and stuff. So my wife, with the whole baby thing, I saw her go through a real deep, dark, severe depression. And as a tāne, as a male, I was oblivious to the whole thing. I was just like, oh man, just snap out of it, man. Sort of, I was trying to encourage her as well, trying to be all Mr. Positive guy and all that. And I had no idea. I was kūware. I was ignorant, and I was actually making it worse. And it wasn't until I saw my bubbly, life of the party wife, I saw her really disintegrating before my eyes, and it actually cornered and pressed me, and I had to reconsider my outlook on what this whole thing of depression, anxiety was, and I had to bloomin' listen, and I guess for a lot of us males, it can be a hard thing, sort of, well, for me anyway, back in the day. But thankfully I learned, I humbled myself, and so I saw my wife go through this whole severe depression and stuff, and I thought, shucks, this depression thing, it's a thing. It's actually a real thing. And so that was kind of my first glimpse into what depression was, and I saw her whole journey through that, and it really opened my eyes. But I thought, that's her. I'll never experience depression, anxiety, or any of that sort of stuff. Anyway, I'll probably say 3-4 years later, so my wife and I, we actually moved to Sydney, Australia. We lived there for 7 years, and while we were there, to put it short, we went through a whole bunch of, calamity, or just one thing after another, relationship breakdown, all these sort of things over there. Not between my wife and I, but just with different friends, close friends and all that sort of stuff. It got to the point where, plus it was, I was overworking myself too, I was burning out, all this sort of stuff, and I was carrying unresolved mama and hurt too, but I was trying to just gun it and just keep going. Anyway, got to the point where I couldn't, I struggled to eat, I struggled to sleep as well, and I could feel myself on the insides, and it got to a point where I was at times by myself crying uncontrollably, and that was the very, very first time I'd ever experienced a deep sadness, and yeah, I was trying to overcome it just by exercise and all that, so because I used to do Muay Thai and kickboxing and all that sort of stuff, so I was trying to go hard with that. I ended up getting to a point where I got to a point of severe fatigue, chronic fatigue, and I couldn't even get out of bed, and so it was really starting to affect us big time over there in Sydney, because I was the breadwinner over there. And so it got to a point where I wasn't really bringing in any income, and everything was just compounding, making things worse. Long story short, it got to a point where I remember the first time I had a suicidal thought, and it actually freaked me out. And so what I done from there was, I won't go too deep into it and stuff, but I share this just because there are probably many of you here that can resonate or understand to some degree or other. May not be you personally, but might be someone you know. And so I do talk about this stuff because we do need to shine a light on it as well. I think especially for myself as a male, we do need to talk about this a lot more as well too. So it got to a point where it was really hard for me. I still remember the day we ended up having to move out of the place we were living in Sydney and staying in my cousin's garage in Sydney, in Seven Hills. And we were staying in a garage. I had bills compounding left, right and centre. I had a huge disappointment for a potential opportunity for a TV show in New York that fell through as well. A whole bunch of things, and I was done. I believed myself I was done. I remember the day when I was lying down face first on my cousin's driveway and just crying my own pool of tears and seeing my wife. I remember the look of my wife when she saw me in that state. And so, anyway, I just want to say it was in this place of hopelessness where I discovered the true power of this word hope. Now, I don't want to say this word flippantly or in a way that's cheesy and stuff, because if you do understand the power of hope, it is a game changer. And now I understand why hope is one of the most beautiful, one of the most powerful things in this life, in this world. And so for me, people always ask me, oh, so what was the one thing that helped turn you around and all that sort of stuff? And so for me, I will say that it was my whakapono, or my belief or faith in Jesus Christ. And in particular, practical terms, there was one verse in there that talks about hope. And without that one verse, all things work together for good for those who love God. And so that was the thing that actually gave me enough grit to hold on, because I thought that everything was doom and gloom after that. And now I look back, that was probably 10, 19 years ago. Where I am now, back to that point, I can truly say that all things truly have worked together for good, because from that point on, if I hadn't gone through that dark time, my wife and I wouldn't have created what we called the Tūmanako kaupapa, where we've now painted 13 murals throughout all our small town communities, Tokomaru Bay, Tūrangi, Dargaville, been down Kawatiri, down Westport, down south. We've done 13 small towns throughout the country, going on different marae, working together with rangatai, young people where suicide has been, a huge issue in those small town communities, and it's all about giving them hope. But for me, it's important with these young people is that they feel the heart behind the mahi. They feel the heart behind the work, that it's real, that it's pono. Because kids can sniff fake from far away, and so, I look back, and even though I went through that really hard time and stuff, I look back now and I really believe that, things truly can work out together for good, and they have. And so that's just a bit of a glimpse or snapshot, I guess, into that, part of my world. And that's part of the kōrero pono stuff too. So I just want to touch on some practical keys. It's all good just to share this stuff, but for those of you that may be struggling in silence today, even, I just want to, a few little tips. Check the headspace. When you're tired, stressed or overwhelmed, your thoughts aren't always telling the truth, and that can be very true. 2, speak before you snap. This is another thing. Don't wait until the bridge collapses before you check the cracks. Talk early. The small kōrero is easier than the big breakdown. Do the boring basics. So sleep, kai, water, movement, sunlight, and an honest kōrero. The basics won't fix everything, but they give your mind and body a fighting chance. It's really just about strengthening your foundation in this thing called life. I walk my dog every day, get my coffee, and just, I'm 47 now, and hello, sometimes when I work out, back in the day I used to try and get abs, big muscles and all that, and hello, now it's just all about longevity. Motion is lotion, my physio reckons. Yes, kapai. Motion is lotion, walking the dog, and as long as I'm moving. All these things matter though, they do all contribute when it comes to our mental health. Go side by side. And so this is one thing I want to encourage those of you who are a bit whakamau or shy to maybe want to open up to someone. For me, I think, bro, should we go for a fish? Fishing is an awesome way. Out on the boat, out on the moana, and just fishing and just asking these little questions, creating these spaces where it's a lot easier to have little check-in kōrero and discussions. Carving, there's another one, hunting, diving. There was supposed to be diving, maybe driving even, yeah. Not every deep kōrero starts face to face. Sometimes it starts in the ute, on the rocks, in the shed, or out on the bush, hunting. Yeah, so it's about creating those spaces. 5, don't trust the mask. Some people are laughing on the outside but collapsing on the inside, and that is very true. That is very true, and who knows, there may even be some people in here this morning on the inside collapsing. And so it's always important to be sensitive to what people are going through. You know, none of us know what we're going through. So check in on your happy mate, on your quiet mate, your successful mate, the hoha mate, and the life of the party mate. You know, don't go by the masks that we all put up, you know, check in. And people always ask, oh, so how do you check in, you know, sort of thing. And so for me, it's this whole kaupapa of reach out and reach in. You know, you hear a lot of the time, see it on social media, oh, I'm here, bro, you know, I'm just a text away, just call me, or, you know, I'm here for you if you want to have a kōrero, just let me know. A lot of the time, if someone's going through something like depression and all that, that's the last thing they feel like doing is reaching out. So we actually need to take more of an initiative to reach in. Reach into your mates, reach into your kazi or whoever might be going a bit quiet, you know. And what I want to say is, when you ask, oh, are you okay, bro? And they're like, oh yeah. One of the key things is ask twice. You know, it's like, you're good? You know, as a start, nah, bro, are you actually okay? You know, and is where the real kōrero begins. And so it's just taking that extra little step in terms of helping. So I just provide these little keys just to, you know, go out, create those spaces, go for a fish or coffee or however you like to do what you do, you and your mate do. But these are just some little practical ways on how you might be able to do that, you know, whether you're out on mahi or and all that sort of stuff during smoko, I don't know, up to you. But yeah, and there's, you know, heaps of professional resources there as well, contacts and all that sort of stuff, and I have no doubt staff and bosses and stuff too, creating this culture as well. So yeah, tēnā koutou, ia koutou e whakarongo mai nei, ai, tēnā tātou, mauri ora, kia ora. Well, just reflecting on the kōrero, so we had a couple of people, after I was leaving, they left the room and wanted to meet me and have a kōrero with me. And yeah, obviously they were going through some stuff with their own, with themselves and their own whānau, and so this always kind of happens too when you do talk about, I guess, the mental health kaupapa, and you know, and I think a lot of the time, you know, they were asking for advice and all that sort of stuff too, but I think a big part of it was just allowing them to just have a kōrero and get things off their chest too. But yeah, just try to encourage them and give them some more practical keys on yeah, how, just so I think alleviate a lot of the pressures and stressors that can, you know, I guess we all have to navigate through with this sort of stuff. But yeah, you know, it's for me, it always just is a sign to just keep doing this sort of stuff, you know. The more tāne that are out there talking about it, in terms of being vulnerable, and always with the hope of just trying to encourage and help people, you know. Koira te mea nui ki au. Yeah, but no, it was good. Ko pai. Yeah, it was a good time. Good kōrero, I felt. Yeah, and you know, the main thing is just being myself. And that's always the thing that kind of resonates through with all this sort of kaupapa and kōrero. Yeah, so ka pai.